Welcome to the Shekinah Women of Beauty Show. I am your certified life coach, Latoya Siobhan.
I'm your full-figure fashion model, Dakota Cherie.
I am Dr. Alicia Plant, the resident scholar.
And I am Lady Artist Leslie, your life and relationship coach, filling in for Lady
Rain. We miss you, Lady Rain. Oh my goodness, come back. Okay. Today, ladies, we're going to talk about the ultimate woman. The ultimate woman. Like, what does that even mean? Is it possible?
Can we be the ultimate woman?
Ultimate woman. And so some people say P31.
Represents the ultimate woman. It's the personification
Represent.
of what a woman should be.
Right.
The model of a woman. So, can you tell us more about this P31
Right, because this is going to
woman?
be your specialty. I just know.
I just know.
Well, let me say, as a Christian woman, I first of all want to bring up Proverbs chapter 31, and that's the scripture that talks about the Proverb 31 woman, or the virtuous woman is what the Bible calls her. And so let me just read a couple of verses, and it says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trust her, so he will have no lack of gain." And then I'm just going to go down to verse 30. It says, "Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised." And so many of us ask, well, who is a virtuous woman? Can I be a virtuous woman? Can any woman, rise up to that level? Well, let me help you. Just to make it really clear, Proverbs 31 woman was not an actual woman. And so most people think that this was an actual woman in the Bible times that we had to live up to.
Right.
But what God did is, this was a story of a king was saying, I want my son to have a woman that is virtuous. And so the Bible laid out a template of what a virtuous woman should look like. Okay, so that's what we need to make sure. I don't want you to get so overwhelmed with, I can never become this woman. If you read those scriptures, if you go back to it and open up your Bibles and read it, you will see she was amazing. She did so many amazing things, but it's a template. And so, as we go on into the segment, I'll give you a couple of modern day templates that you can use to measure up to this virtuous woman.
I'm glad you shared that about the biblical understanding of this, because it's very important. We often read it literally.
Right.
But this was an actual prototype of the woman that we all need to aspire to be. And you use the word overwhelmed because a lot of people today, a lot of women today still find themselves overwhelmed trying to live up to this. A great scholar from Duke University mentioned, his name was Dr. James Crenshaw. He's now the professor emeritus there. He reads this particular text as a personification of wisdom. As that what it really is, what it really talks about is the personification of wisdom, is that it's not an actual person.
That's right.
And when you read it that way, it is both prescriptive and descriptive for men and for women.
That's right. Very
And I'm
good.
just excited to hear about the modern day version, because it can be very intimidating. Just thinking about what the Bible says, Proverbs 31 or P31 woman is, because we're like, okay, it's 2019. Give me the modern version. I need the modern version.
Well, let me give you, one or two modern versions.
Okay.
And so, this is about characteristics, not personality. See, you meet a person's personality, but you live with their character.
Okay.
And so when your husband, finds you and he presents you as his wife, what is he living with? What are you going to offer him? And so as a virtuous woman, one of the things is peace. and goodness. You want to offer peace and goodness to your home. She has compassion for others. She pours into others and her community. So she's a woman that's involved in the community, and she's, you know, she's the wisdom that God has given her, or the wisdom she has from life, she's pouring into others. And so she's a woman of wisdom. She's discerning about investing in her future. She's a hard worker. She's an entrepreneur. She knows how to take her gifts and talents and use them to bring in extra income for the household. So if your husband is the provider or the main provider in your home, what are you doing to help him? As the helpmeet, what gifts do you have to say, babe, I can do this to bring in some extra income so we can make ends meet? And so that's another one. She is a woman of faith. She is a worshiper and not a worrier. Okay, so many of us in the times that we're living in, we worry about so much. But when a husband has a wife who's not constantly worrying, because he may be doing all the worrying, but you need to be able to be his peace. Be his peace, okay? And she budgets. Budgeting is very, very serious, because we all love to shop, right?
Yes.
We love our shoes and we love our hair. We love our, we love to have things, but are we overspending, or are we being a good steward over our finances? Are we making sure that, that whatever the husband sets aside as a budget for the family, or for our, to make sure all the bills are paid, are you out there spending it? And so now he's worrying more, and are you putting pressure on him again, or are you being his peace? So those are just a couple of things that as a modern day virtuous woman, those things I feel we can reach on those levels.
I think another thing that would be helpful also is to see it, because when you and I talked about looking at this from more than a literal standpoint, when we do that, it also opens up an opportunity for us to see these relationships as partnerships. To be this type of woman, you're going to need a community.
Come on,
you can't be an island unto yourself and really run a great home. It has to be a unified effort in order to do it. So a Proverbs 31 woman, or a P31 woman, or a virtuous woman is one that engages and welcomes her community to support her and help her, because she cannot necessarily do it all.
She definitely can't. And also you have to think about what kind of aroma are you giving off? Is it an odor, or is it a fragrance? Are you always mad and upset and mean? When your husband's been at work all day, and when he comes home, what kind of aroma, what kind of atmosphere are you setting for him? And so when you talk about being a Proverbs 31 woman, which is a woman that is biblically based, so we're talking about someone who fears the Lord, someone who worships God, someone who says, you know what, I've had enough of doing things on my own, and I want to do it God's way. And so when you do it God's way, you will be surprised how much peace you will be to your husband, how much love you can extend to your husband, how much unconditional love you can extend. Because in marriage, you have to extend unconditional love every single day.
I want to turn the table a little bit.
Yeah, because we single.
Because
Me too.
We talked about us being a virtuous woman and what we should do for the man. But what about the man towards the women? I feel like a lot of our viewers out there will like to know.
What about the man? Well, let me say this. When you, as single women, and you're in the stage of being prepared to be a virtuous wife. See, I don't believe that you should become a wife. I think you should learn how to be a wife. Start talking to some married women. Start talking to some couples that you see as examples and say, how do I do this? Talk to a wife who you see those virtuous characteristics in her and say, what are you doing? How do I do this? How do I prepare myself? So it's about you preparing. When you are prepared, you will attract the kind of man who will want a virtuous woman, who will want the kind of woman with your characteristics. And so he's automatically prayerfully is going to become an Ephesians 5 man.
Okay.
And so it's nothing like being a virtuous woman, but yet having an Ephesians 5 man as your partner.
Can we break the Ephesians 5 men down for our viewers? Can
Absolutely.
And we can
Yeah, so because I need to know when I see an Ephesians 5
We
men,
will.
see, we're going to be matched and equally yoked.
Yes.
Well, we'll be back with more of our Ephesians 5 men. And take a break.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-981-7594. That's 800-981-7594.
Back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. We are talking today about the P31 woman, and what that is the virtuous woman, or in some religious circles, particularly Christians, it is the Proverbs 31 woman. And we want to kind of turn the channels. Before we went on break, we kind of started taking our segment to a different direction. The question was posed by our Dakota that, okay, so if we are preparing ourselves to be these virtuous women, what are our men doing?
Right.
Tell me from a Christian perspective. We're going to look into the Bible at what might be suggestive of what men should be doing for the wives or potential wives. So here's where it reads. I'm just going to read just a brief excerpt of this. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, which just lets us know that there is some responsibility that the man has as well.
Okay, so I got to break it down. So does this mean technically if you are dating or married to or with a man who does not necessarily make it easy for you to be a virtuous woman, does that mean they're not technically that type of man?
That doesn't make it easy for you to be virtuous? That's a complex question.
And I will. This is why I say that, because so many times, personally, if you can be in a situation where you're talking to a guy and you're upholding yourself as a virtuous woman. You're doing everything right, saying, carrying yourself appropriately, speaking, in a good way, not a thottish way, so to speak, today's terms. And if it's not really appreciated or accepted, is that something going on within the man?
Well, let me say this. I personally, and I always like to give my own examples, because I was single. I was single prior to being married. And what God showed me was I was attracting a certain type of man because of what was going on the inside of me.
Okay.
So that's why this book really interests me when she talked about that book. But what's going on inside of you is what's causing you to attract that type of man. And so when you change you change your type. And so once your type changes, you will be able to operate in the relationship that you have been wanting. But the most times what we do is we look for something that we can't get because it's not in us yet.
Okay.
So it starts with you saying, you know what, I'm going to take a season and I'm not going to date. Because I'm going to work on me. I'm going to fix within first so that I can start to attract something different. And I am a walking example for that. I was single for years. I was divorced, then single, and I walked out this singleness, and I made some bad decisions along the way. And I finally had an aha moment. And guess what my aha moment was? It was not any of the men that I was dating. God said it's you. Once you change, your type will change. And that's when I met my husband.
Wow.
So it's real. You got to focus on you and not even worry about them. Because pretty soon, once you change and you become this virtuous woman, even in the process of becoming it, they won't even look at you. They'll look at you saying you're attractive, but they'd be like, no, I can't even touch her. They will know. But the one that God has for you that says she's the one, she's confident, she's strong, she's godly, she fears the Lord. That's the one that's going to come right up to you, and you will be a perfect match.
And also to just, we have to not forget grace in this whole process, because we may fall, we may not get it right, we may not be exactly by the rules, and that's where God's grace comes in. God's favor and protects us and shields us and makes sure that the things that we can't block, that God blocks for us. So
and
we have to rely on
that believes in grace.
We have to believe. We have to have grace. If we don't have grace, we're gonna fall flat on our face. It's because a lot of this is about how well you can do it. But if we're the only ones doing it, then we're gonna fall.
Oh, and you are gonna fall. No, I fell many times. My husband failed many times. We both fail, but we both give each other grace. We give each other room, because my husband knows at the core of who I am. He knows, but I may have a bad day, and I just fall short. But I fall short, but I come back and apologize, or he comes back and apologize. So even when you're in a relationship where you may be doing something and the other person's not, grace will cause both of you to come back and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Now, when you don't have that person doing that, you don't have the right person.
It sounds like you're talking about intentional dating.
Right.
Because if you don't date intentionally, you're dating someone who's not on the same wavelength, who their values are not the same, and they don't meet yours.
Oh, then you shouldn't be dating.
It's going to be like oil in water. You know, you have to have someone who shares their values, your values.
Date
Absolutely.
with a purpose.
Intentionally.
No dating just to be dating.
No, that's
so. What about the women that are watching from home now, and they may be in a situation where they don't necessarily know how to embrace, because everybody was not raised in the church, or everybody does not know the word, and they're maybe sitting there to my P30, what? You know, what's that? You know, how do you even come to a point of wanting to be a P31 woman or a virtuous woman? How do you get to that point of wanting that?
Well, I believe that a woman, I don't care if you go to church or you don't go to church, there's going to come a place in your life where you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Everybody date. Some of us start dating at 13, 14, 15 years old. So, you know, you have girls who go back to high school and say, I had my first heartbreak at 16, 17 years old. So by the time you're 30, you get to this place where you say, I'm so tired.
Right.
And so God will align you up with the right person, the right woman who has some wisdom, who can share something with you.
The Titus 2 woman.
The Titus 2 woman that can share with you how to walk this process out. And if she's ready, she's going to listen.
Right.
She's going to listen. Yeah, so there's always going to be help available. And God hears your heart. He hears your cry. He knows when you get to the place when you say, I'm tired. Enough is enough.
Right.
You know, change me, Lord. You send me the right person. He knows, and he will do exactly that.
And I think, Toya, you're speaking also for younger generations who may not subscribe to these very traditional gender roles. And because we are talking roles that may be very traditional. So if you're not one who looks forward to a traditional gender role household, then you have to be, you know, very clear about that with your potential partner.
Right.
Because you don't want to get into a situation where you're the traditionalist in the family, and the next thing you know, that this is a modern person. So you have to have those values established early on. Because whether you're traditional, whether this is not your game or not, you have to establish that person shares those values with you.
Absolutely.
Well, and another thing about a Proverbs 31 woman or a virtuous woman, relationships are relationships, whether they're with your significant other, with your sisters and brothers, your parents, your church members, your classmates, your co-workers. Relationships are relationships. So if you're a virtuous person, you're going to operate in that way in every single relationship of your life. So it doesn't have to necessarily be about a husband and wife. It can be two girlfriends. And if you're a virtuous person, you will treat your girlfriend right. You can't be a friend unless you're being a friend.
Right.
You can't ask her to be a friend unless you're being a friend first. But it's going to take some of those characteristics in you to be able to pour that into somebody else.
Right. That's good. That goes all the way back to, you know, being pretty on the outside, but a mess in the inside.
And mess in the inside.
You know, so you know, you have to be able to say, okay, if I'm going to be virtuous, I got to really walk this thing out. If I'm going to look beautiful on the outside, I need to have a beautiful inside too.
And I will say this: the Bible never spoke of a virtuous woman being beautiful on the outside.
No, that's
Not
vanity.
one
Wow.
time
Yeah.
did it speak
It's vanity.
anything. Verses 10 through 31, it never said anything about make sure you're beautiful on the outside. All of those characteristics are from within.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that as a woman that you shouldn't keep yourself up. We want to, especially if you're married or if you're looking to be married. Men are visual. And they like what they see before they find out what's on the inside of you. They got to be attracted to you first. I guarantee you, my husband was attracted to me before he came.
Before
and said,
he knew you was
before
a
he
virtuous
had a
woman.
conversation with me to say, I want to marry you.
Right.
So we have to be beautiful on the outside, but we notice God didn't focus on that. So many of us that focus on the outside and you wonder what is wrong. Now it may be time to say it's time for me to start working on the inside.
Right. Right. That's good. This is some good girl
I
talk.
love it.
Absolutely.
You know, because
We need it.
I love the way you're breaking it down.
Yeah.
Because as women, you know, of all ages, you know, I know viewers that watch this show probably are go to young to old,
Yes.
and I just want everybody to be able to relate. You know,
Yeah,
everybody doesn't
everybody.
know what a P31 Proverbs 31 woman is, so it's good that we get to learn what is a P31 woman. How can I become a P31 woman?
Yeah.
What are the advantages of and benefits of being a P31 woman?
And I think it's so important that we remember, because a lot of what we were saying takes off this just blanket literal interpretation
Right.
of the text, and it becomes something that everyone can
That's right.
gain and glean from
Yes.
when we open it up.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
we will be back with your Proverbs 31 and fellas, Ephesians 5.
Absolutely.
Fat cells are very difficult to remove. Lipo is very painful, dangerous, and expensive. Introducing the patented Fat Freezer. The secret is selective chill technology that is based on the power of cold lipolysis. It's a scientific fact that fat cells crystallize at cold temperatures, and your system will flush them out. The Fat Freezer system will apply the perfect temperature that targets fat cells, causing them to break up and be flushed out naturally. Call the number on the screen or log in to fatfreezer.com in the next 10 minutes to receive your free shipping and handling for only 4 easy payments of $29.99. Fat Freezer includes free protective pads and diet plan for you to start sculpting your body and get professional results. But wait, there's more. Order the Fat Freezer system now and you'll get a personal body fat tester absolutely free. That's right, you get them all for just 4 easy payments of $29.99. Target and freeze accumulated fat. Call now.
Well, we are back, everyone, and we are having a wonderful conversation about the virtuous woman. Some of you may know it as P31, others may know it as Proverbs 31, but we're also talking about being a suitable male partner as well. So we use the scripture from Ephesians 5. So we want to take a few moments, first of all, to chime in about what it takes to be a suitable partner, not just a suitable wife, but a suitable partner, male or female. Let's talk about it, ladies. What's a suitable partner? Anybody want to?
Someone that's a man of God, for number one. And two, someone that's a leader, guiding your home.
Right.
You know,
I would agree with you too, because
protecting.
it has to balance, and I think that's something that should be covered in the very beginning. Like, what's your foundation? What
Right.
you know? What do you stand on? What do you stand for? And that alone should open up the door.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
for it to come about.
Well, I would also say, women, we have to be very careful of, you're in a place where you love God and you say you want a godly man,
Right.
but then you meet a man and he may not be where you want him to be from a godly point of view, from the leadership and from the things that you're asking for. But because you decide to settle, now this man cannot bring you everything you're asking for, and you're in the relationship, you're growing in God, your growth is, you loving God more and all this, and he's not there yet. But that's because you chose him based on in that place.
Right.
And so what we try to do as women is we try to change them.
Yeah.
And now instead of being the wife, we become a knife. Instead of being the wife, we try to be their pastor. We try to be their minister. We try to be their evangelist. We try to be their teacher.
And wear ourselves out.
And, and you're wearing yourselves out. But if you
out.
just wait and get the person that's compatible to what you want, and let me tell you, when he's compatible, if you say you want a protector, get and wait on that protector.
Right.
If it's something about feeling secure. If you've been in relationships before where there was a lot of insecurities because of lies and deceit and cheating, you have to make sure you have a man that is going to be committed to you. That's going to be that's even going to show you consistency. If he's calling you one day and then the next day he's not calling, and so you want a man that's committed, that's consistent, that's Christ-like. Those three things, if you can get those three things, I believe everything else around it will begin to fall right into place.
And I am big on consistency. I don't know about you ladies, but if you are interested in me, and if you're calling me at the very beginning and setting dates, and then you just fall off the face of the earth, I'm sorry.
Right.
Consistency is key.
And I wonder how much though we project into this idea of suitable partners a lot of pop culture or a lot of the fairy tales. How much do you think women, like the modern woman or the younger generation, are you waiting for your Prince Charming? Let's talk about that a little bit. Is that part of being a suitable partner, or do we need to debunk that myth and realize that knight in shining armor may not exist?
This is my personal opinion on that. Honestly, I feel like no one's going to be perfect, and he's not going to come riding on a horse and saving the day. It's just stop waiting if that's what you're waiting for. But I think that, like she was saying earlier, there's somebody for everyone, and the man for me may be on a totally different level than the man for you. It's going to be compatible for me and compatible for you.
Right.
So it's not really a matter of waiting it out. It's just a matter of recognizing the compatibility.
You know what else is good, ladies? Ladies have to stop thinking about your type. Stop worrying about my type is this. He's got to be 6'3" and 6'4" and light skin, and all of these different, this list of things that you have. More times than not, you're passing your man up, because he's not, like you said, he's not going to be a knight in shining armor. He's not, because you're not all the way there.
You're not Cinderella.
You're not Cinderella. I mean, let's just be real. We all have flaws. We all have shortcomings, but you want somebody that can love all of you, your flaws and all. So when you have a type, let me tell you something. Your type generally will go for the part of you that's like with everything showing. The legs crossed, the nails, the whole thing. You need somebody that's going to go when you get home and you lay back and you don't have the makeup on and you don't have the hair curled and you don't have the earrings and stuff on. You need somebody that's going to love you like that. Generally, that man is not your type. He's going to be somebody that God handpicked for you if you walked out the process to becoming the woman that you're supposed to be for him. When he comes, he's not even going to look like.
Is there like a prayer we can pray?
But I know this.
That will help out when I'm looking kind of like our type. Or
we can think about the marriage vows before you take them. In sickness and health.
That's right.
If you have to stop, we have to start dating for character, and not for how fine someone is, how much money they have. Because a good example of this, I hate to say it, but it's true. What's happening with the B. Smith story? How many of you know?
I know.
What's happening with that woman?
Told my husband
Oh my goodness! What's happening with her is so sad. Because at this point, she has Alzheimer's, but he also has brought a woman into their relationship. So it just I'm not making judgment on them.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that you want to negotiate those types of things before you marry a person. Am I marrying a person who will do that to me? Or is it sickness and health? Till death do us part.
He's not going to be on a horse. She's not going to be Cinderella.
No, it's not.
But wait on your compatibility. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Bye.